My name is Ivan Quervalu. I grew up in Chelsea, here on 21st Street at 257. I've been living here for over 55 years, so I've seen the neighborhood change. I went to St. Francis Xavier Grammar School on 17th Street and can remember when there were many gangs here and poor housing conditions, and through the years things changed and it got better. Let me see if I can remember what happened in the 50s and 60s. I grew up basically playing a lot of street games. We used to play stoop ball, junior stoop over there. Not this type of stoop, the stoops were higher. And then we used to roll marbles, we used to play Johnny Ride the Pony, kick the can, all of the street games of that time. Every so often we would build scooters. We built a box cart scooter out of a 2x4 and an old skate. We ripped the skate apart. Matter of fact, I made one recently for my art portfolio. All kinds of games we used to have and do. My favorite memory, I guess when I was standing right around here across the street and my dad, who was a merchant marine, came down the street with a 28-inch German white bike with white wheels and it was blue metallic and had handlebars like this. At that time they didn't have handlebars like that. And I'll never forget that moment. Once I got the bike, I rode it. Everybody wanted to ride it, and I didn't want to let them ride it, you know. So I would get into a couple of fights because of it. Eventually, you know, they rode it. One of my escapades was going down to Chinatown one time, and we were scoring some fireworks. So the toughest guy in the neighborhood, he had the bike. I loaned him the bike, and on the way back, we heard sirens, and we thought it was the cops because he had just scored a bunch of firecrackers. And I think I'm telling you too much, but we all were racing back, and he was in the lead because of the 28-inch bike, and we had 26-inch bikes. So it was like a formation, like a convoy. He was in the front, and the rest of us, there's about 6 of us, were behind him. We were all racing fast that the cops were going to chase us, and it was just a thrilling moment for a 12-year-old. You know, we used to hang out at the St. Columba Park. They built the mini basketball so you can dunk, and then they had the bigger. So we hung out there all summer. Mostly played basketball, hung out, listened to music. You know, everybody would meet there. Occasionally, even Joe would go there, Jose. He would stop by. Once in a while, we would go to Hudson Gill. I was part of the Hudson Gill Pony League softball. We won the 63 and 64 as the spinners. So I remember some of those guys, Ricky Buckley from the neighborhood. One of my favorite friends was Michael Schultz. We used to hang out at the YMCA when I was around 12, from 12 on actually. You know, we would go after school and go swimming, have all kinds of activities at the Y with Bernie. But when the Y was closed, he would go up to the roofs and we would climb the roofs, and eventually he had pigeons. He developed a pigeon coup and started racing them. And he did that for many years after that. No, I didn't help raising the pigeons. I was just kind of like observing, just having fun, you know, like an adventure. So we went to the docks on 14th Street with the old sanitation building, and we climbed in. It was really dark. I remember that, but there was a light shining through the window and the sun was coming through, so it created this mist, and it was really mysterious. Anyway, I followed him and went up to the 2nd floor, and we had to find some pigeons. So there was like a bar when we were on the 2nd floor, and we were kind of tight roping by hanging onto the ceiling, and he went over, he had a bag, and he pulled out a couple of baby pigeons. Took one, took 2, and then we got out of there. It was really creepy too. I guess the funniest thing I ever happened to me was I fell into the Hudson River underneath the George Washington Bridge one time. I got all wet, and everybody thought it was funny, except me, of course. I was almost slipping into the river. But everybody laughed at that one. So I remember there were a lot of gangs. The gangs had sweaters. Guys from 26th Street had sweaters, Jesse and them, Jeannie. And then the guys on 17th Street by the park, that was the tough group. That was the assassins, and then the younger kids, the young assassins. I wasn't part of that because I was like 12, 13 years old. We used to play, you know, street games, come home after school. My mom was working, so I was, you know, playing games all the time and trying to be careful because, you know, you walked out too far, you're in a different block, you get jumped. So, you know, a lot of times I learned how to run. And then through the years, the neighborhood started changing, you know, so there were less gangs and people actually going to prison, those, you know, the gang members. We even had a little social club, and we had our own sweaters. The name of the social club was the Young Lords, believe it or not. But it wasn't the same Young Lords that later were the advocate community, you know, action groups. Then I went to high school, and so I kind of left Chelsea, went to another neighborhood by Lincoln Center. And, you know, you branched out, you were on your way. Another thing is that back then, you had a lot of mom and pop stores. So you had La Bodegas, Puerto Ricans when they first came after the 50s. You had Italians running the delis, making sandwiches and stuff. There used to be one across the street over there. There used to be a candy store right over there, Sam's. And then my friend Eddie took it over. And I remember the Joyce Theater when it was the Elgin. Matter of fact, I was looking for it the other day and I inadvertently punched in Elgin in my computer. So it came back. And there was toy stores over here. You don't see too many toy stores around these days, not in this neighborhood. One of the things I miss most about the mom and pop stores was that they were very personal. There were a lot of families were involved in them. But now you see all these conglomerates like Aristides and Cordova, and it's not the same. So I kind of miss that old school, old world touch. Through the years, it just changed and changed, you know. Now, there's restaurants and bars everywhere, just most of the city, except maybe on First Avenue. There's still a lot of mom and pop stores there. You'll see them around. But eventually, they'll get a hold of them and move them out too. So back then, you know, there was a lot of poor families, a lot of Puerto Ricans, Latino. The Spaniards were here then came the Cubans. And then, you know, the white people, Anglos came, and the housing stock changed, you know. Until today, you see multi-million-dollar houses, but I remember those houses when they were, you know, low income or moderate income. Most of the people that used to live here eventually moved out. You know, the rents they had poor services, so they started moving out. You know, gentrification in those days. Even though you had housing advocates on 17th Street, there was a housing advocate there. Her name was Wood, Pat Wood, I think her name was. And then they started moving out, like to the Bronx, other neighborhoods, you know. And you know, at the time, people would come to Chelsea, let's say from Puerto Rico, but then they would also come to Connecticut, straight from the campo, or the camps in Puerto Rico, straight to Connecticut. At this point, I wonder, you know, what's happening to some of my old friends. Mike, you know, I haven't seen him in a while. We maintain a communication via email. My other friend Phil lives up the block. I see him. But some of the others I haven't seen in a while. Junior died. I did find out about him through a friend of mine that lives in Florida via email. So he found out, and that's the way we've been communicating, via email. Now that I've lived here over 55 years, how do I see the future? You know, I just walk out of my house and I can go do anything. I can go to the store, I can buy groceries, I can go to the movie, there's plenty of movies, there's everything here. It's changed a lot. Definitely has changed a lot. So as far as me and Chelsea, I'll be here.